Thank you so much for having me, Simon. I'm really excited to share about what I'm working on, and it's definitely all still a work in progress, but it has been so fun and so exciting, and I'm really enjoying this journey. Yeah, so I guess maybe a little bit of context. I obviously love Solana, but I am not an engineer. I've been thinking about like ZK and privacy over the last little while. And I decided to join my first hackathon, which is, I guess, how we met, the Coliseum hackathon for Solana. And I wanted to build a dark pool. So I joined by myself, wanting to build a dark pool. I think there's a lot of potential and I'm really excited. Yeah, I guess like how I would explain a dark pool is it helps give people privacy on chain. You would probably know a little bit more on the technical side, but the way I would explain it is it's kind of like a mixer. So you have transactions that can come in and go out, but all of that is private and hidden. Because with blockchain, I really love that it's decentralized and I love the transparency aspect. But I think in order to onboard more people into this space, I think like privacy is really important. So, like, we have our banks, IRL, like the Bank of, I don't know, like Canadian banks, banks all over. And all of that is like private. And I figured, okay, like if someone wanted to move their bank on chain, they would need like a little bit of privacy. So that's kind of how I got into dark pools.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love that. Yeah, it's always been interesting to me how Bitcoin is something that people kind of jumped into, but it's like extremely public and transparent. So if
Mhm.
you are very rich, everyone can see that. And you may not want everyone to see that. In fact, you probably don't want anyone to see that. So it's a very interesting that it's taken this long to get to like real privacy and ZK
Mhm.
proofs and like things like Zcash. So that's really interesting. So how does trade and seek, how did that idea come about? And I guess where are you now in your development?
Yeah, so I guess for me, like when I first joined, what I really wanted to do was one, connect people to like complex markets with increased privacy, right? So my thought process was these transactions happen, all the time, and I think like more people should be able to benefit from it. So that is how I thought of the idea. And I know a quick idea, didn't think too deeply into it. I was like, why don't I just test it out and start building? And then I joined the hackathon. I started kind of tweeting about it. And I think as of lately, it's really kind of like picked up in attention, like dark pools and private transactions. Like it's really kind of starting to capture some of the mind share. But yeah, I guess I'm a very like missions and values driven person. And I see a lot of potential and how this could really like benefit society like globally. And so that's why I'm building it.
That's really, really cool. And I guess in terms of like the way that you have approached this project and other projects, if you wouldn't mind giving a bit of background, like what kind of stuff did you do before this, and yeah, what's your like background and expertise?
Oh, okay, yeah. So I guess like background pre Web3, I was an architect, so I love designing worlds. I love design. I love
Very
buildings. I
cool.
love putting
Okay.
things together. I love building. I guess I'm a different.
Like a building architect.
Yes, like I have
That is so
experience
cool.
designing like high rises in Vancouver. And it's definitely like a passion of mine. But I guess I wasn't really hitting my financial goals. It really only seemed kind of like a passion career. And so then I jumped into Web3. And then I jumped into Web3 as like a trader in 2016, which was very interesting. It was kind of my first go at like exploring like Discord and all these different online communities. And I just have, I haven't looked back. So I got into that, launched an NFT project called Women Rise NFT. That kind of caught some attention. I went from like NFT project. Oh, there was another one as well too, Coco NFT. That was my first NFT project, and that was super fun. I was their TikToker and head of BD, and yeah,
Cool.
I went from NFTs to blockchain to the metaverse, working for a metaverse company, kind of tying architecture back in, and then I went deep into gaming. Yeah, and now kind of like full circle, I feel like I'm taking all those experiences and putting them together and now launching my own thing called Cemented.
That is super, super cool. So, wow, that is like a massive jump from architecture to trading. Is that something that you were interested in kind of as a hobby on the side, or did you just kind of like have a hard stop on architecture and decide, okay, I'm going to get into trading now?
Yeah. Well, I guess I was working at an architecture firm like fresh out of school and I really loved it and it was really fun, but I just started trading on the side and like eventually that just yeah, that was kind of doing well. Still very close with that firm. We're still friends, but yeah, I guess that kind of just like took over.
You found out you were like good at trading, and you're like, okay, this is
Yeah,
what I
I
should
mean,
be
I
doing.
guess like I just kind of got sucked into it. So I had no idea what I was doing. I don't trade stocks. I'm not really like, before I was definitely not into economics. And some random person on the internet who I'd never seen before was also teaching me how to trade. And I was like in this like community. I don't like, yeah, it was honestly super random. And I was like, oh, like these people seem really nice. And I'm kind of getting along with them online. I'm connecting with people online. And they just started like teaching me how to like leverage short. So actually, the first thing that I did ever in crypto was like leverage short, I think. And it made some money. And I was like, oh, maybe I could do this again. And then as I started trading more, I started researching the blockchains a little bit. I was like, what exactly am I trading? Right? Like right now,
Hmm.
I'm making lines up and they look very pretty, but I'm basically gambling. So let me do a little bit more research. What is Ethereum? What is Solana? What is Tron? What is Quadriga? That was a little traumatizing as well too, but that's okay.
Were you doing technical analysis when you mentioned the lines that you were?
Yeah, I started kind of getting into that. It didn't make sense for me. I just thought it was like really beautiful and they had all these different tools. I felt like I was opening up Paint. Like, when you open up Paint
Right.
and you have your
Yes.
toolbar and then you just start drawing things as someone who doesn't know
Yeah.
anything about trading, but they were hitting. I was like, wow, like it's so satisfying when like you were making all these lines, you were throwing Fibonacci in there. Why is there
Right.
Fibonacci in there? I don't even like math, but I love math.
Yeah. That's so cool. Do you still use technical analysis, or is that just like a previous thing?
Yeah, it's a previous thing. To be honest, I haven't traded in quite a long time. I have now been sucked in on like the build side of things.
Right. Okay.
So I have not really been following the market, which I think is maybe good for my mental health.
Probably. Trading is, yeah. It's
But you
it's
learn
a
a lot about
full-time job.
yourself, and I
Yeah.
find it's like very spiritual in a sense where it's like a reflection of you because you lose money, like
Wow. Okay.
you're gambling or you're taking big risks. Like you really challenge yourself, and I think
Yeah.
that was something that I really loved about it. It's like when you're locked in and it's just you, the computer, the markets, and like your own thoughts, it's kind of nice. Yeah.
Wow. That is like so profound. That is like the coolest description I've actually heard of it. That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Um, okay, wow, amazing. Okay, so to fast forward then a little bit, so you were trading and then you started building and you built a few projects that you really enjoyed that process.
Yeah, so I guess then I jumped into a company called Coco NFT, which is I think a Vancouver-based startup. That was when I really got to like learning, and I didn't realize I also love TikTok. So I started making like short form educational content in 2021, and as their like head of partnerships in BD, um, that brought on a lot of partnerships and collaboration. So companies like OpenSea and others found some of the videos, which like led to a lot of partnerships and collaborations. And I think from there, things have just kind of really kicked off. And, I think there were also like lots of influencers, celebrities, and other people wanting to get into the Web3 space, like using my
Right.
content as like education. Because I'm not an engineer, so I think like, but I do like researching, and it's hard for me to explain these like complex problems, but I found it fun to break them down and maybe like explain it to people who may not understand because I think like Web3 should be accessible. And something that I've noticed is since then, since joining in 2016 or 2021, I've noticed it's actually just become more complex and less accessible. So that's kind of why
That's
I'm building. I want to make it more accessible.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And there's a couple of major themes there. So I also kind of have a background in teaching for full stack, and
Oh,
I
cool.
somehow got the job like kind of a couple of years into learning to code myself. So I
Oh,
felt
nice.
like a massive fraud, but it was actually easier to teach than for like some of the other instructors for me, it felt because you are closer to the people that you're trying to teach, like mentally,
Mhm.
like, where those gaps are because you've just climbed those mountains. So I feel like you're in a very valuable kind of niche where you know enough that you can explain and you also understand like how to package it in a way that the normies so-called can understand. So that's
Thank
really
you.
amazing.
That's nice to hear because sometimes it does get a little bit stressful, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so complicated. How am I supposed to figure this out? How long have you been an engineer for? I know you were mentioning that you're full stack and
Yeah, so I've been coding for like 10 years at this point. And
okay,
yeah,
cool.
mostly like mobile. The last 5 years at like a big, it's like I call it Fang-esque. at the
Mm.
big pharmaceutical company in the States. I actually, I don't know if I should. Yeah, I worked for Big Botox. I worked
Okay,
at the
cool.
company that makes Botox, and so I built
Oh, that's
the
so interesting.
like the Botox app.
Oh,
um,
wow.
and then yeah, and then in December that I was there for 5 years, and then in December that ended, and this year has been like I'm like okay, I have like some capital, like I can kind of take a little bit of time to
Mm.
figure things out, and I've just been like building. I think I've built like at least 8 or 9 different like MVPs to like full apps and different things, just kind of exploring.
Oh, cool,
Yeah.
cool.
But
Okay, so you know
for
your stuff.
Web3, I think
Hey,
on a
you'd
technical
explain the
side,
technical terms now.
I mean, I don't actually know too much about crypto per se, actually. I've
Okay.
done some work for, you may know them, West Coast NFTs.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, yeah. I've heard of them. I've definitely had some calls and chats with their team as well.
Yeah, I did like a small project for them like 3, 4 years ago, and I helped with an NFT project also like 4 years ago, I think something like that. But mostly kind of, and then this year I was in the Solana space trying to like come up with ideas. I was building like a kids crypto savings app for
Oh,
like
I like
families to, yeah, and so stuff like that. But I'm still kind of finding where I like have my energy like draws me into a specific project.
Okay, cool. So not just a dev, also a great entertainer and building a lot of really cool things.
I guess, yeah, just yeah, trying to find what the things are that like give me energy, and part of why I wanted to do this podcast is because I find it very interesting to talk to people who have like sort of found that where you feel like a pull towards a certain thing and the obstacles involved in it, like maybe today this isn't working, or
Mhm.
you get a lot of no's from customers or investors or
Ugh,
whatever.
yeah, it's been a lot of no's like,
Yeah,
sometimes,
and
but
you
now
still
also
like
a lot of yeses.
yeah,
Uh,
and that's amazing. And it's like the idea that it doesn't really even matter. You just like roll over it into the next, you just keep going. So that's
mhm.
like what I love hearing about.
Oh, 100%. It reminds me of something that I read online. Someone posted on Twitter, but it was like, if you were to fail like 30 times to hit your goal, like how fast would you fail? And would
I
you
just
fail
read
at 29?
that.
Did you read that too? Are we on the same
I
mind share? Is our algorithm the same?
I
Like,
think so. That's so funny. I read that like literally, I think a few days or a week ago, and I was like, I need to fail much faster. I need to go like much, much faster. So
it's
that's
scary
really cool.
though.
It is. It is. And I guess for you, like what have you found like when you started this project and like that first part where you like have an idea and you want to put something down that like feels real.
Hmm.
What was that experience like?
Yeah, for me, I kind of see like the computer, like, coming from a more architectural background, like I love like, going back to the basics, like having my grid paper, dotted paper, pen and
Right.
paper. And so
That's so
that's kind
cool.
of how I feel like this community, that's how I feel like this community, or not community, that's how I feel like my computer is. So I just kind of like whipped it up, Canva, throw some Canva slop in, start writing notes, getting everything together. And I think what's really cool is obviously I don't necessarily think like vibe coding is the best, but someone like me who's not an engineer, who's, tried to learn Python and is still learning, now has her terminal set up, not very good at it, but still kind of learning, like vibe coding kind of helps push that momentum. So I entered by
Right.
myself and I was like, okay, like, let me try to figure this out. And then obviously, I think like I can really only take it so far because there's so much to do. And I didn't realize how difficult it was to build a dark pool. So I had two engineers join me, I think like a week or two into being in the Solana hackathon. And honestly, they've been amazing and they've been such a big help. And they're also kind of like, all right, Kat, like you're in these developer documents with us, like you're learning too. And now you know
Nice.
what it's like. And it's kind of funny though, because they're also teaching me terms like what is a Chad dev and what is a crack dev.
That's funny. Yeah.
They're like, right now you are learning what it means to be a crack dev. I was like, wow. So basically neglecting everything other than learning how to code and these developer documents
Right. That's
or learning
funny.
concepts. I wouldn't say like I can't take any credit for like coding and engineering and whatnot, but I think like, yeah, like even just learning about these concepts, how they work, how the architecture comes together, it's a lot.
Yeah,
But
and
it's
I
fun and
mean,
it's worth it.
yeah, and you're at such a great layer of like the stack where you are sort of orchestrating and you're able to like attract talent and then orchestrate that talent and keep people like what's it called? Like up like stimulated and optimistic and energized to be able to like work on the project, even if you are solving problems that have either not been solved yet or that need to be solved in a way that like the shape of it has to change. Like,
Hmm.
you see one shape and you're like, no, this isn't quite right. Like, let's change it to this shape. Let's change it to that shape.
Yeah, and I think like company culture is also important to me as well too. Having people on the team that are really like aligned, that's been kind of fun and kind of like putting together that community as well. And I think like when we're all kind of bigger picture aligned, it makes it more fun, more enjoyable, and also just it makes work. I don't know, it's motivation to like keep building as well too.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty cool. And yeah, and the fact that like finding people that you are fully aligned with is extremely hard these days.
It is hard, especially like on the internet and Web3 and Telegram. Like there's so many
Yeah.
scams. You don't know if you could trust people or not. Side tangent, ADHD side tangent. I think that's why I also launched, I think September 16th, I launched a token on Pump Fund called
Nice.
Trust. Yeah,
Okay.
just to kind of like, it was definitely a very degen platform, but I just
Right.
thought it would be like fun to like, just like experiment. Like, it was wild. Like it was the first experience for me. Oh, and that also inspired what I'm building right now as well too. Because when I launched that token, I was like, "Okay, what's happening?" There was a bunch of like degens, alpha groups trying to like plan and coordinate with me some random things. I had no idea what was going on. But like when I first launched, obviously that hadn't happened yet. But I launched, and then there was like 50 people in the chat, and the token had pumped. And then after I had finished streaming, it had just like dumped. And then anytime I'd like tweet or something, the token would pump again. It pumped only twice. But that was kind of interesting because then I was like, okay, what is happening here exactly, like behind the scenes? So I started looking at like the wallets, tried to like analyze like what was happening. I'm like, okay, there's a couple people who hold like 15-30% of the supply. Like they're planning
Hmm.
to dump. They're not long-term sustainable holders. I'm like, how do I prevent that? Right? What can I do? And then another thing as well, too, like they're like, yeah, just like a bunch of like snipers, connected wallets, all that sort of stuff. So I'm like, how can I make it more like sustainable? Because obviously everyone is trying to make their money and I want people to make their money, but they're also glued to their computer all the time. And they also get a little crazy on there as well, too. But
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really interesting segue because Pump Fun is a very, very, some people see it as like the first like real like killer app version of like this. It's just like distilled pure degen, like all these like tokens with their white papers coming out, where it is kind of like Pump Fun is like the distilled version of that, where it's like you don't need a white paper, you don't need to like
Mhm.
pretend your token has some crazy mechanic. Like give it a
Yeah.
name and a meme and good luck. Good luck in the trenches.
Exactly. And it is crazy. It's like the Wild West on there. What I really like about it is that it is accessible. Like anyone can
Yes.
learn, anyone can launch, and so and anyone can kind of have that opportunity and like build their own community and also earn. Not
Hmm.
even have to buy their token at all. Like they could just stream, make content, and have a token tied to them, which I think is really cool. So
Yeah, and it sort of has turned it into a game, and there's like this broader topic of like you heard the phrase the tokenization of everything?
yes.
And yeah, and it sort of is like the first, and I never really believed in that personally until this summer. I met someone who built a dating app that was tokenized. And
Okay.
it was so crazy. And it's basically like every time a man swipes like yes on a woman, he stakes $1. And if the woman rejects him, she keeps the dollar. But if
Oh,
he
interesting.
yeah, but if they accept and talk, then he gets his dollar back. And I was like, at first I was like, what? Why? But apparently it actually, because it's transparent and open, it was a way to actually see like, you could kind of like see people's history. And so you would know like not to match with this person or not. And so,
Yeah, it's like a way to build trust as well too. Because
yes.
I'm actually also building a dating app. I'm calling it a dating app, but
Oh,
the whole
okay,
purpose
cool.
of it is behind making meaningful connections online, right?
Right.
And trust. And yeah, a lot of it kind of that's another little side project that I'm building. But I've definitely explored some of like those ideas and like also like anonymity as well
Right.
too. But anyhow, going a
Is
little off.
it is it Web3 based or
No,
not?
actually, initially I was thinking it would be cool to have it Web3 based, but now I honestly, everything, my whole like Roblox, I thought, okay, it's going to be ZK powered because I think data is important, privacy is important, but I just really couldn't figure out how it would work. And it just, with security, it just made more sense for everything to be Web 2. But now Trade and Seek is what's bringing me back to like, okay, here's a fun little like Web 3 project as well too. So while that's being built, I'm also been working on this Web 2 AI match dating app, which maybe long term could be more around decentralized AI identity, but that's a conversation for another time.
Very cool. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I think this idea of the tokenization of everything, where I think Andreessen said, like, eventually the only job left will be like an investor and a trader, and everyone, like, the AI will basically do everything, and your way to like earn resource or status or whatever is just by trading, like full time.
Yeah, which is so interesting. And I can definitely see a future like that. But as someone who likes to build, likes to connect with people, likes to
Yeah.
create, it's something that I, yeah, like it's very interesting because if that's taken away, and yes, I can have do other things that are also fun and fulfilling, but like I think building for me is also very like fulfilling, and I definitely would not want to just become a trader or an investor because
Right.
I feel like I've
Or a
kind of done all of
consumer, like,
that,
yeah.
and I just don't really care.
Right. No, I agree, and I'm of the same mindset. Like, I can see where, and a lot of these like top VCs are very like all or nothing, like big picture. But I think there will always be builders, and I think the builders, you can't stop them from building, and it almost becomes more valuable when something is like human built and has that like uniqueness to it, compared to just like this latest AI app from the AI. Like,
Mhm. Oh,
are people
100%.
really going to be into that?
I have a funny story because I have to deal with, I think like I just have to deal with a lot of like really interesting people and like rude people and just psycho people. I mean, I'm also probably one of them, but I had one experience where like someone reached out to me like wanting to hire me, and
Mhm.
then eventually they were like, I was like, why would you hire me when I'm literally building the same thing? Like, we could just collaborate maybe, like, I'm not malicious. And then they went off about how they were gonna like build everything that I was building faster and better and like leverage AI. But then I was like, you know what? Like, that's not the point. Like, sure, you could build it better, faster, and it could make more money, but like, can you have my team? Absolutely not. Can you have as much fun as I'm
Right.
having? Maybe, but like, I'm literally living my dream life. I mean, obviously, I wish I had more things, like more money, more, certain things, but I feel like at the moment, I'm like really passionate and I'm building with people that I've worked with in the past, people that I trust, that I can be myself
Mhm.
fully, that they can be themselves fully. We've already, we've done a lot of crazy things, and now I'm just like, okay, this is fun and I enjoy it. And I hope it does really well. I know, and I'm betting on it to do really well because I do provide a lot of value there. And I've proved it in the past with like my work experience. But yeah, now I feel like, okay, I think it's time for something a little bit different and more aligned.
Right. And you literally can't beat someone who's having fun. It's like
Mhm.
you can try, but by definition, you will not beat them. So,
Yeah, so that was kind of an interesting interaction that happened like
right.
a couple weeks ago. But yeah.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I do feel like there is an element of, I think, especially in crypto, and this is what has sort of kept me away from the space for the most part, in terms of like very, what's the word? Like extraction based interactions where people are like there to like see if they can trade off of you or leverage
Mhm.
you in some way, and sort of seeing you as almost like a token that they are like buying at the right time and selling at the right time.
Yeah.
I don't think it's all like that, and there is like a huge element of artistry, and
Mhm.
I do believe in like open finance. I believe in open finance for like government and
Mhm.
bureaucracy, and then
Yes.
privacy for individuals. And there is like a lot of meaningful work in that regard. I wanted to ask you more about like the gaming side of it, and kind of where do you see like the future of your platform, but also of like the gamified nature? Because I think when it comes to what's very interesting to me is that younger people are sort of now growing up with crypto instead of it being like a thing that has happened in their 20s or 30s.
Mhm.
It's just part of their lives. Even though they're probably not on exchanges because they can't be with KYC, they obviously hold crypto, they have tons of
Mhm.
ways to get it, and they have this like the same way we are like internet native. they are crypto native in their ability to trade, see the memetics. What are your thoughts on that and like how that's going to play out in 5 years, 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're just becoming more digital. It's like that. I don't even know if I would call it a shift because we're already kind of there. But for me, I guess like how I can relate it to what I'm trying to create for people. So, as someone who's like kind of a builder, something that I've always done. And maybe it's not everyone, but maybe it's like the people who like my product and platform, but like I've always wanted everyone to be like a world builder. I always see people as like world builder. Like
Nice.
everyone on my team is a builder, like, no matter what they're doing. So I guess for me, like my whole I guess like vision is I'm wanting people to make online connections more meaningful and like trustworthy and also like private with their data, right? Like I kind of want to build infrastructure where yes, like there is all this data here, but I'm not trying to extract your data. Like you have more control
Hmm.
over what you share and what you don't. And I think like companies and the users or the world builders can then collaborate in like a slightly different sense and how like corporations are taking people's like data and like working together to build things. I think yeah, that's kind of something that I'm working towards. But I guess like something that I really want people to feel like with my products is like I want them to be able to like dream big, have fun, and like build safe and secure worlds with us. So like there's also like there's some like UGC sort of like creator type components in every product. Even in like Trade and Seek, the trading platform, it definitely looks very different. I've never seen a trading platform that looks like this. And what's really cool, I mean, I don't want to share like too much. I don't know when you're launching this podcast, by the way.
I mean, I can like hold off on this particular one for like, when you wanted to
Okay,
go
I
live.
guess I'll just yap, and then maybe if anything, like you could like just cut it out. If I'm like, hey, like
Hmm.
I spoke too much, like so like something that was kind of funny is I like imagined maybe I'll send you a screenshot of it, but I always like to start with a little bit of like art, and so when I designed my trading platform, it looked completely like unreasonable, but it's like how I feel when I'm like trading, and I want other people to feel that way as well too. So yeah, you open it up and you've got your little paint toolbar,
I would
and
love to
then
see a screenshot. Sorry, because your website is very cool. I love like unique, like wild Web3 websites,
yeah,
and
and
yeah, this
and
one's awesome.
everyone said it was impossible and dumb because when I start bringing in these dexes, they're like, you actually need to take their thing. But then you know what's actually really cool? Because I'm building a dark pool, all of that is hidden. So technically, you don't even need to see it. So now I'm literally creating what people interact with and how they like trade. So
Wow,
yeah, I'll have to
that's
show you,
cool.
but I don't know. Who knows if it will work? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Like maybe I'm being delusional, but like yeah, we'll see.
That is
I'll
great.
send you a screenshot after this for sure.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think like just even being able to think outside the box of like the traditional views of like how things should look
Mhm.
is so important to like innovation just in general, but I think especially in crypto where things are as much as there's a lot of innovation, there's a ton of like the same and a ton of churn of similar concepts. And if
Mhm.
there's like one step in a new direction, like 1,000 things show up along that. So anything that thinks outside the box and changes that is like I think extremely welcome.
Yeah, and yeah, honestly, I'm actually this week I'm super excited because obviously I call it my Canvas slop where like I will just draw things kind of like from memory or maybe with references in Canva because it's easy and I've just been using it for so long. But
Yeah,
now Faustine, she's somebody on my team. She's now like taking it a step further and like making the proper like wireframe and UX UI for it. And she's also like an artist at heart too, and she's like a killer product designer. So I'm excited to kind of like see it come to life. But
that's
yeah.
cool. That's cool. I just love like the idea that you can bring art into trading and like into this world of like finance where I think maybe some people do see it as art, but there's times when you can just look at these like charts and these
Mhm.
bar graphs and you're like it doesn't look like that enticing or appealing
Oh yeah.
to people.
No,
That is so cool.
mhm,
And
and
your
then I
devs are probably like fuck.
yeah, so that's why I'm kind of like, okay, like I want to connect people to complex markets with increased privacy, but basically
Hmm.
it's like I want to allow people to have private executions with guided liquidity.
Hmm.
So like we'll see. And like maybe we'll gamify it. I haven't gotten that far. MVP, like, lots of ideas. So
Right. That's funny.
Mhm.
I kind of am also curious about your thoughts on prediction markets and
Mm.
how you feel about that space because I think privacy is there's like a whole thing, a whole like road to walk down with like why privacy is important. And but I think with prediction markets, we have another kind of new tool where
Mhm.
it sort of is like you actually want insiders to trade in prediction markets because when insiders are trading, it means like they're sharing this information, and like yes, it's bad if sometimes if they're doing that, but it also like provides information to the world and helps kind of all other prices and markets adjust. So yeah, how do you kind of fit that into your model of what you work on?
Yeah, I mean, I think prediction markets are really great. I think that there's a lot of positives to it, but then also you always have to like I feel like pick it apart a little bit and like see like what are its potential flaws, which I know I can be kind of annoying that way. But honestly, for the most part, like my quick thoughts on it, I think prediction markets are great, and I think when it comes to like media as well too, it's a great way to just like validate information, especially with this like age of like AI and like not knowing like what's true or not. And then it
Hmm.
does make things like accessible. Like we're literally trading on like news and information, and there's a layer of like truth there as well too, but then like how is that truth kind of like determined? And obviously like there are ways that it can be like manipulated,
Hmm.
but for the most part I like prediction markets, and I think it's a step forward. um yeah, I guess those are my quick thoughts on it. Like there's I don't know, there's so much stuff going on, especially with Polymarket,
Right.
Kalshi. I just recently, it's funny because I don't usually like watch TV either. I kind of prefer to be more like I don't know. And I also like building. I prefer to be kind of like on the sidelines and stuff like that. But it's so interesting, like hearing some of my like friends be like, "Oh, there was like an episode on South Park the other day, and they have Kalshi and Polymarket," and I was like, "Oh, cool!" Like, so yeah, like maybe like I am pretty deep in like the Polymarket community, and like I'm like part of their like community,
Oh,
and that's
cool. So
yeah.
you're
So
like
it's like
really into.
yeah, but like high level, like you can keep that, but I think like all the other stuff, maybe like I don't, yeah,
Okay, no problem.
on script, I feel like my voice tone kind of changes. And then, like, if I can, like, talk about more, like, just like I'm having a conversation, a real conversation, it's just easier
Yeah,
for me to talk.
for
Yeah.
sure. And like, I mean, yeah, I call the podcast Speakeasy because I love the idea of people being able to kind of like just have a normal conversation in a way that you feel like you're not on a stage or like in a podcast even like you're just having a chat.
Mm. I have such ADHD, but like, I feel like one of these days you have to do like a podcast session in a speakeasy. Like,
That
that
would
would be
be
really sick.
if I get to that level, I would love that.
That would be so cool, honestly.
Yeah, yeah. That would be like the dream. The dream is that like it takes off. This can be my thing, and then I just build a speakeasy in my house. And I actually am a big fan of
No, you gotta do
speakeasies.
it publicly. We need to go to this thing.
Yeah, yeah, just one that you can go to. It's like there's actually a place. I don't think it's still open, but in Toronto, it's this tiny comic book shop, like really cool little comic book shop, and then you like press a button and a door opens and it's a high-end restaurant like that you walk through a door and it's this massive
Oh
crazy
yeah,
restaurant.
those.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's really cool. Okay, yeah, you need to make this happen. Or
That's the
not, I don't
goal.
know. But if you
No,
do
no,
make
that's
it
the goal.
happen, I'm gonna come visit.
Okay, sweet. Yeah. Do you like come to Toronto for like events or anything like that?
Yeah, I haven't in a while. I went last year for the Blockchain Futurist conference. They also had like an ETH women upstairs as well too. So that was probably the last time I was there. I haven't been super often, but I do want to like get going.
Hmm.
Um, Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, I've been locked in. Honestly, not that social. Only social with engineers these days.
That's
And they're
funny.
really
Yeah.
trying to get me. They're like, okay, like, yeah, like it's my personality, and I'm learning more on the technical side, which you can probably tell as well too with how I describe things. But like, yeah, I'm appreciative of these engineers because they're like, dive deep into the docs. And I do get it, and I go back and forth and like challenge and like question, but it's so hard, and I'm trying to be more tech savvy on an
Right.
infrastructure layer. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard to do that because it really is like just a totally different way of thinking. And I think when I was like teaching full stack, I had people who would be like so frustrated and say like, "Oh, like I should know all of this by now." And I'd be like, "If you're learning like, Spanish or French or some crazy language, like do you expect to be able to speak it fluently within, a month or even six
That's
months?
true.
Like maybe not, you kind of
Mhm.
have to like struggle through it for quite a while before and when you reach
I don't
fluency,
want to struggle. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. And when you reach fluency, you don't even realize like you've reached fluency. It just sort of happens one day where you're like, oh, I need to
Mhm.
do something, and then you do it, and you're like, oh, like I knew how to
Yeah.
put all those pieces together.
Yeah, right now I'm going through that phase where I'm like, I'm really trying to dive deep into it and I am getting a lot better. But then there's also a part of me that's like, you know what? I think there's a lot of value in the vision and the concepts and kind of separating the two. But now I'm like, no, like I gotta learn it. And yeah, it's a progress. But
I'm
it's been
curious
fun.
actually what that is like for you because you sound like a very like visual, like artistic person, and sometimes for me code kind of looks like that, where it's like
Mhm.
very aesthetic. There's like aesthetic code and non-aesthetic code, and you just kind of see it, and it's
Yeah,
hard to
it's
describe. Is it the
colorful.
same for you?
Yeah, I think that maybe it's just the way I learn and like even in school, like you can even ask my dad, like he's like, "Oh, like I saved one of your test grades. You got 49%." Like I maybe didn't do the best in school, but like once I left school, I did a lot better.
Hmm.
Um so I think it's like the way I think, the way I learn. Like I've also, I like music. I've been playing classical like piano since I was
Oh,
5. Like my sibling is like a full-time artist, painter, I'm
oh, cool.
surrounded by creativity and that sort of stuff. And like, I think there's also like me being like not creative, but like what I learned is like when it comes to work or like school and how I learn, yeah, like visuals like really helps, like sound, music, like even seeing something, like even like looking at like code, it's like I don't understand it, but like I hear it in like tones.
Right.
So it's just like a little bit different and just trying to figure really just trying to put the pieces together.
That's very interesting. Yeah. I wonder, yeah, because I know like a lot of artistic people are able to get into code very deeply because of that. Like I had a friend who was also like a graphic designer and then he learned to code and he was like he just became very talented and he learned like in his mid and that kind of opens up like a whole other conversation about like education, which we can maybe even talk about. Which by
Hmm.
the way, I feel like we can go for like till 2:05 if that works for you.
That works
Okay,
for me.
perfect. Yeah, so on the subject of like education, because you mentioned that school was like a bit more challenging, and then afterwards it was just much easier for you, and that was the case for me as well. I feel like
Oh,
I was being
cool.
punished being in university, even though I'm there, on my own accord,
Yeah.
like studying what I chose, but it just felt wrong. And then when
Mhm.
I learned to code on my own terms and sort of became a dev, and everything I've done since then felt much easier. Do you feel like there is a role for Web3 and the technology we're building here to change that and to help fix that problem?
Yeah, no, I totally relate to you on that level. Like, and I think that's another thing as well too that I've also like passionate about is like education. Yeah, because I guess we just learned it. What was your question again? Sorry, I'm like I now my brain is like going and I like have a bajillion things. I'm like, yes, this is exactly in the direction that I was going. So I guess with like cemented and all the different tools, like what I also saw, what I how I also kind of envision it because eventually I'm gonna build a fashion game, which I honestly
Ah,
love.
cool.
Like, yeah, I worked for like a mobile fashion game company for a little bit and I
Okay.
honestly like was having like the best and worst time. The best and worst time, but I was like this is actually like I went a little crazy, but also I'm like I'm probably going crazy because this is what I want for myself.
Right.
And I see like how it could make a big impact in so many different layers like education. So one thing I was bringing on like partnerships, right? And like talking to brands and whatnot. And, brands really want to target the younger audience. And these like the younger audience is so talented, right? So they can create their communities online. They also like, there are people going to like, School of Fashion in New York. They're studying so hard, all these types of things. But also now there are like children who are teaching themselves off of YouTube and creating this
Hmm.
beautiful like virtual design. So like what if, instead of going to like a prestigious school paying 100K being stressed about finances, in the hopes of becoming the next Virgil Abloh for Louis Vuitton, you could be like a talented creator online and you put in the time and work and build your community who really vouches for you and loves your work. I think that's like another way to also like it's another cool form of education and another cool way to like have opportunities. So that's kind of another thing. Like I would love to bring these brands and like kind of distribute and like share these opportunities for people who are just as talented but may not have had the opportunity to do so.
Right.
Yeah, so that's
That's
kind of how I
that's
see it. Like, there's different ways to learn, and I think like with blockchain and like Web3, like you were saying before, like we were talking about pump fund, like anyone now can create a token, can earn money, can stream content. They don't have to go through the whole like rules and regulations that like countries, governments have when
right.
launching something. Like they could just do things. So
Yeah, you can just do things.
mhm, you just do things, and
That's
you make
like the
millions.
catchphrase of the past few years. Um,
Yes.
yeah, no, I totally agree, and I think we are now in that era, like in a real way, where, a 14-year-old with talent who has an internet connection and has this ability to create, incredible music or incredible art or code
Mhm.
and they can be in like the poorest country on earth, but if they have an internet connection and they can connect, they can make a wallet, they can connect to something like Pump Fund and stream or share in Discord, and they can kind of earn what value they provide to the world. And
Mhm.
that's pretty amazing. And they can do it much faster and like with way
And
less
globally too, like
globally.
internationally. It's like I feel like, like if I'm just in Vancouver all the time, you're kind of like, okay, I've got to build something for these people here that want something particular. But, with Web3 and all the opportunities it has, I can build something and guarantee I probably could find another person who relates because the world is
Yeah,
so big.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And there's like so biology called it the dark talent, which is that like all these people who don't go to these big prestigious institutions, but they are
Mhm.
extremely talented. And like the founder of Replit was a good example where he was kind of building this. He was building Replit, and he had this like skill set, but he wasn't able to like get into the right places for that. But
Mhm.
I think one thing with that sort of makes me hesitate is that while you have access to like global community and you have maybe like your 100 friends in your Discord channel or your Telegram, you may not ever like see those people, and
Mhm.
in a real sense you are like sitting at your computer and could be talking to 100 AIs. So I
Mhm.
think one thing I personally would really want to see, and I think an innovation that we like still need, is a way to bring these things more in person.
Yes.
And I think that's like the last thing that university really provides is it just forces you to like live with your cohort.
Yes. Yes, I think that's important. Like that's like the one thing that I think is so important about school too is like
Yeah.
while we have all these opportunities online, I think that people should not forget that the real world is still very important and like how we connect with people, how we interact, how we communicate. It definitely changes. Like even for instance, like there's this new like Reels, like the Reels blend. I don't know if you've seen that. Like you
I've
can
deleted
people
Instagram.
like merge your algorithms with people, and it's interesting because maybe normally you could like
Oh,
communicate through,
right.
you'd have to think of the words, you'd have to maybe sit through uncomfortable situations and like talk about it, or you could also like understand someone by scrolling their reels or their algorithm because who knows them more.
That is really, really interesting. That is actually so I've never is that how new is that?
I just started it, I think like last week. I think it's now rolling out for like more and more people. Like how Instagram does like the slow rollout. So for me, I think like there are a lot of positives, but also like negatives. And so that's why I try to be aware of it, but I also try to like, I try to also be a consumer. Like I am still like a consumer girly. I love TikTok and I'm not like the tech is cool, but like honestly, I could just make TikToks all day and have a great time. But there's like pros and cons to that as well too, right? So
Yeah. That is like kind of mind-blowing because like the concept of the algorithm and like your personal slice of the algorithm that's serving you like your 2000 pieces of content a day is very like personal to you, and it's shaped to you, and it's shaped to like
Mhm.
for all these like nefarious reasons to kind of draw you in and take as much of your time, but like that also being a part of you, of like a real way for other people to connect with you and see who you are
Mhm.
through that, is just kind of mind-blowing that like it's like, hey, like my name is Simon, I'm from here, I do this, and here is my algorithm kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, because I find also too, like you really get to know someone like on because you have, like everyone always has like a facade, and even your like internet algorithm isn't perfect. Like it's not you, but you just there's another side that you get to know of someone, and that also is like deep and meaningful as well too.
Yeah, like your
It
revealed preferences almost.
Mhm.
is what the
Exactly. And then it's
algorithm.
listening to you as well too. So it's like even if it's not a revealed preference, like
Yeah, it's
it's yeah,
something it's
it's
like
funny,
trying.
it's entertaining. So far I'm loving it, but I'm always just I feel like people should still be aware of like how it can impact them positively and negatively and just I think people should still have that control over it and not let
Yes.
it control them. Hmm.
Yeah, fully agree there. And yeah, we live in very interesting times. So I think we can wrap up, but I just want to say thank you so much. I really hope to see Trade and Seek just absolutely dominate, and I'll be watching for sure. And then everything else you're working on such cool things. And yeah, if you have any like closing thoughts or anything you want to share.
Yeah, I mean, that was a really fun conversation.
Thank
I'm
you.
really excited to see this episode, and I'm also excited to see more of like what you do.
We'll definitely include it. Cool. Thank you, Kat. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.